You've probably seen me here with Swim Ontario. I recently had the great experience of watching one of our Ontario athletes from Kenora compete in the Olympic Games, who happened to be also my swimmer and my son. So I'm very excited today to be here to talk about swimming, our sport, and of course, our role in sport as women. First off, I would like to introduce our very special guest all the way from Australia. I met Janelle a number of years ago in Fiji and was blown away by her grace, her poise, and her presence on pool deck. Janelle comes to us from Australia. She is an Olympian herself, 1988, I believe, and also a gold medalist at the Commonwealth Games. She is a coach, she is a mom, and she is a leading female coach in Australia. She has great insight into the sport of swimming at all levels, from ground roots all the way up to the high performance and elite, and is breaking barriers in Australia for women. She advocates for equity in sport and specifically has a voice, a strong voice for female coaches and the role that we can play in our sport. She is currently working with Swim Australia to move into a position of high performance, which will be the first in Australia. And it's very exciting, and I will let her talk about that. Joining us today on our panel as well is Cathy Pardy. Cathy is the head coach of Laurier University and the Region of Waterloo Swim Club. She is a member of our CSCA panel board, and she is also going to be the head coach of the Canadian Summer Games in 2022, representing Ontario. We're excited to have her with us. She is also a part of the Canadian Select Coaching Group for women and for coaches, and also is a lead voice here in Ontario as a strong female voice. We also have Vicky Keith. Vicky has so many titles. I have so hard to start with one. She is a Canadian marathon swimmer extraordinaire, is a world record holder and still holds world records in many categories in marathon swimmings. She is an advocate for all sport and for all athletes and achieving accessibility and equity in sport. She is the coach of Abby Tripp, who participated in the Paralympics this summer in Tokyo. She oversees the program for the Kingston Y Penguins, and she is currently in a new position where she will continue to mentor in the Kingston Y Penguins, but is going to build and expand the Paralympic program through her voice at Variety Village. We welcome you all. Without further ado, I would like to present Janelle Pallister. And Janelle, are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you very much to Swimming Canada, Swimming Ontario. It's great to be part of the program today and just to give my background and my journey along the way. So my journey, as Janet said, started out as swimming. You know, I was a 5-year-old learning to swim. I was an asthmatic and I was thrown into a pool, and the doctor said, this is the best thing for Janelle's health. So that's what I did. And my dream was to become an Olympian. And at the age of 10, I was watching the 1980 Olympics. Some of our athletes went, some of our athletes didn't, due to the politics in sport. And then I moved on, and my dream actually came true in 1988. So I represented Australia at the Seoul Olympics. I was 5th and 6th in the world in the 400 and 800 freestyle. I went on to the Commonwealth Games in 1990, won a gold, silver and bronze medal there. Went on to Pan Pacific Championships as well, gold, silver and bronze medals there. So I actually like sets. So that's always a good thing to get a set of the medals. And then in 1992, I actually missed the team to go on to Barcelona, and devastated as athletes are when they miss teams. I was 22 years of age, and back then that was quite old to be a swimmer. And I decided, what was I going to do to keep traveling but not pay for it? And what I was fortunate enough, I was working with the Qantas Airways at that particular time. And a job application came up, and I applied, and that was to be a flight attendant. So I went into being a flight attendant for 15 years. I got completely away from swimming, and just sort of lived the life of a flight attendant. And it was hard work, but it was part of the team. And I think that's what I really enjoyed, being part of a team. I met my husband and had 2 children. We moved from Sydney up to the Sunshine Coast up in Queensland. And at that stage, we didn't have any help in regards to helping me continue my role as a flight attendant. So I was the one in the family that gave up my career as a flight attendant to stay home and look after the kids. And this will lead into where I'm going with the swimming coaching. So as much as it may have hurt me, it was the role that society see women doing. And it was the role that, I was doing. And then when I did resign from my role as a flight attendant, I was sitting beside the pool watching my kids do their learn to swim lessons. And all of a sudden I was asked if I would fill in. And quickly I said, no, I don't have any qualifications. I don't have any licenses. I don't think I can do that. And they said, no, it's okay. We're just asking you to fill in for 2 weeks. And I said, well, as long as if anything happens that I'm covered and you're covered, that's, I'll fill in, but I don't want to do any more than that. And I did the 2 weeks. I can see Vicki laughing. I think she can see me, how you sort of get reeled in there. So those 2 weeks went into part-time coaching. And again, my instructions were, I only want to do junior coaching. I want to give back what I got out of my swimming, but I don't want to get into high performance coaching. I don't want to get into senior coaching. I don't want to get into the elite coaching. And as those athletes progressed, I think I found that I had to keep on getting and learning more and more knowledge to keep those athletes going. And with those, each time the athletes would say, Janelle, you are coming with us, aren't you? Janelle, you are coming with us. And it was almost, I was encouraging them to keep moving forward and being the best they could be, yet they were wanting me to go along. So I think my first medal as a coach was a young girl that she won a 100-meter breaststroke. And it was ironic because I actually started out as a breaststroker. Even though I ended up as a 400, 800, 1500 freestyler and a 400 medley swimmer, the connection back to my first medal as a swimmer was in breaststroke, and my first medal as a coach was in breaststroke. So, and it kept on rolling, and it kept on rolling along. And then my children were involved, and I was always trying to pass them off to someone else because it was hard coaching your own children, as Janet, you know yourself. It's very hard coaching your own children. And I really doubted my ability as a coach because it was something that I really never chose to do. And then when I decided to say, okay, I'm going to take this on board, I am going to have a real good go as a coach, I started to do all my different licenses. In Swimming Australia, it's a bronze license, then a silver license. I've now done my gold license, so I just haven't got my performance side of my gold license there, which is another story. But it's, my daughter was progressing quite well. And I actually said to Bill Sweetenham, I actually think she's going to be pretty good. And it's my son he did surf lifesaving over here, and he was Australian champion in that as well. So they were both excelling. They were both very, very good at what they were doing. So I started to just progress as a coach. As I said, I remember being at an open water event with Ron McKeon, and he said, "Oh, so you're into coaching?" I said, No. And he said, "I'll guarantee I'll see you at the conference next year." And he saw me at the conference next year. So my coaching role really started to take off. My daughter was selected onto the World Championship team for the Junior World Championship team in 2017. And I wasn't named as a coach originally. And I was just driving along to training, and then all of a sudden I had a phone call from Jamie Salter, who's our Youth Pathways manager, and he said Sean Eels has pulled off the team due to family commitments, and we'd like to know if you'd like to be one of our coaches. So straight away I said, look, I'm going to have to ask Lani, which is my daughter, to make sure that's okay with her. So I had a chat to her, and she said, will you be my coach? And I said, no. So I took on board the group that Sean already had, and that was my request, that Lani was still under the coach that she was selected to, as I thought that it would be extremely important for her to learn from another coach. So off we went to Indianapolis. And Lani wasn't in the final. She swam the 800 and 1500 over there. She was in the morning heats, and she ended up being top 8 in the 15, and I think it was top 10 in the 8. So made a very big improvement. And then we came back. I had a meeting with Glenn Berrigan, who was the head coach, and he said he was quite impressed with my performance. And I suppose I had a bit of a chat with Bill Sweetenham prior to going to Indianapolis, and he said, Janelle, he said, the best thing you can do is be the best coach you can be. And he said, you go over there and be the best coach you can be. He said, don't follow anyone else. You just be the best coach you can be. So that's what I did. I went over there. I as nervous as I may have been, I tried to show that I wasn't nervous, because I believe if coaches are nervous and they show their nerves, well, then it rubs off onto the athletes. So here I was putting this little bit of a bubble over myself. So I was standing nice and tall. I was, as Janet said, I obviously sort of showed what I was trying to show, whether it was actually what I was feeling inside, was two different things. And we say that to our athletes as well. So, yeah, I came back and Glenn actually said, Janelle, considering the progression of Lani and any other swimmer that you have, next year for the Junior Pan Pac team, we'd actually like you to be one of the mentor coaches if you make the team. And I said, yeah, absolutely. I said, I'm ready for that. So Lani made the team for the Junior Pan Pacs, and I went over. I was one of the mentor coaches with Scott Talbot, and that's where I met Janet. So there was these two redheads on pool deck, and we have a photo, and that's where I suppose our friendship started. And thanks to the technology of Facebook and now Zoom, that we can actually see each other face to face and communicate like we do. I then went on to Junior World Championships in 2019, and I coached Lani to 3 gold medals and 3 silver medals, and female swimmer of the championships. So it's something that I'm quite proud of, but it's still a very, very hard journey, because when I was chosen for the Junior World Championships in 2019, the comment was, she's made the team again. Obviously, they need a token female. And that's difficult. That's really difficult to take. But, as we do, we stand up tall, we sort of brush ourselves off, and we keep doing what we're passionate about. And that's, my journey, that's my journey along the way. I've stumbled, I've fallen, I've, scuffed my knees along the way, I've had my tears, but you get up and you dust yourself off, and you keep going along the way that way. So my message to all the females and the males out there, because this is not about, girl power or bashing the males. It's about having our voices heard and having our abilities seen, not just because we're female, but because we're a good coach. And my journey, as Janet said, we're in the process at the moment. Swimming Australia are in the process at the moment. Nothing's been signed off. So my wish, I suppose, is what I put to Swimming Australia, was to be the co-coach with Michael Bowl at the High Performance Centre down here on the Gold Coast. So still waiting for confirmation on that. So if that comes off, that'd be great, because it's more knowledge, more learning. for me to learn from one of the best coaches in the world. So, and Michael keeps on saying, and he said it last year, no, next year will be my last year. And he's moving on to Paris. He's going on to Paris. But if I can learn, what it takes for these next 3 years in an Olympic preparation to be a high performance coach, well, then I'll be confident to move into that spot as well. And at this stage, I've been a high performance junior coach, but I'd like to be a high performance senior coach. So and I think my first notes on my papers that I actually wrote when I was speaking to Janet was it's over 100 years ago since women had their voices were heard to vote, yet we haven't really moved along in regards to women being noticed for the strengths that we have. And I think it's time, we're not there yet, but I believe we're getting there. So it's time to have a look at Vicki, what she's been doing, Cathy, Linda Keefer, all the great female coaches, and I'm sure there's plenty more of you out there that are doing an awesome job. Yet I think we have to do double the amount that what our male counterparts have to do. And I'm sure, Vicki, you've had it when you do get knocked down, and it's spoken about that being that token female and being put on a team because they need a female, which is not the case. The case is that we earn our right. We earn our right to be there. So for any males out there, the ones that are really, really supportive of the females, it's great to see. And, I know that I've got a lot of support back here in Australia from male coaches, Bill Sweetnam being one, Michael Bowl being one. I've spoken to my past coaches being Brian Sutton, Dick Kane, Bill Sweetnam, and Brant Best, who is a mentor coach with Queensland Swimming, Barry Prime, and they're extremely supportive of not only me as a coach, me as a female coach, but all coaches in general. So it is empowering. We do have to, and I know the topic was how to reimagine coaching for females, but it's how to reimagine coaching in general and what it's going to look like for the future. And that has to be taken on our results, but also given opportunities. So if there's a female and a male going for a role, cut out the name, cut out what it is, look at what look at the attributes that we bring to the table, and that the best person should be put in the position. And unfortunately, a lot of the time, it's because of reputation. Oh, yeah, he's done this and he's done this and he's done that. Yet I don't believe a lot of females are given opportunities to really shine and show their true strengths. So I've made a few notes. So if I keep on looking down, I'll sort of go through my notes. Throughout swimming, we have some amazing role models, female role models. Tracy Menzies really comes to mind. She was the coach of the Ian Thorpe. And a story of Tracy is that Ian made a choice to move from Doug Frost to Tracy Menzies. And Tracy was Doug Frost's assistant. And there was a lot of slander against Tracy at that time, but it was Ian Thorpe that actually made that decision to go to Tracy. And when Ian Foal started before the 400 freestyle at our Olympic trials, Tracy walked along and she was getting a slow clap and said, "Gee, you're doing a great job." Now that's, I can see Vicki shaking her head, and that's actually really sad because I don't believe a male coach would have got the same treatment. And, whether it was Ian false starting through nerves, was it Tracy's fault? No, I don't believe it was. It's something that happened. We've seen it. We've seen it many times, and we've seen it at Commonwealth Games. We've seen false starts at Olympics, and nerves play a very big role. Yet for Tracy to get that slow clap is quite insulting. We have Mel Marshall, who's doing an amazing job with Adam Peaty, and yet she's had to stand up and really sort of show what her true attributes are as well. And I remember listening to Mel talk about when she stood up at a conference and said, this boy will swim a 57 for his 100 breaststroke. She was almost laughed at. And she said, I'm telling you, this boy will swim a 57 for his 100 breaststroke. And he went to Rio Olympics and he swam a 57 for his 100 breaststroke. And that was under her tutelage. That was under her coaching. That was in hard conditions. She said it was a 5-lane 25 pool that they would do sets, and then they would walk. They would do swim backs, but it was actually walk backs on the side of the pool because they didn't have enough lanes. Then they would have to go and chase 50-meter lanes. Yet she was still able to coach and raise and influence someone to be an Olympic gold medalist. And she hasn't just done it once, she's done it twice. And you know, she stands up, and she stands up very tall. She stands up very proud as well. And she said, you know, her growing up, she had a father that was good at sports. And she said they were playing table tennis this one day, and the dad was kicking her backside. I think they were her terms. And she said, come on, Dad, you know, go a little bit easy. And he said, no. He said, if you want to win, you have to earn the right. So when she said that, it showed that she's earned the right to be in the position that she's in today. No one's just given it to her. She's worked her backside off, and she's doing an amazing job. We had Terry Mckeever over in the US. She's been on, I think, the last 3, maybe 4 Olympic teams that I know of. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, she's head coach at Cal Berkeley and doing an amazing job herself. And I listened to her also speak, and she was with Nort. And she said, you know, I was trying to be like Nort. I was trying to be like Bob Bauman. I was trying to be like them. And she said, and then all of a sudden I realized I didn't want to be the second best Nort. I wanted to be the best Terry Mckeever. So she went along her way to be the best Terry Mckeever. We have Jan Cameron, who spent time over in Canada as well under Don Talbot when he was over there. And she was a very, very strong lady. And I was fortunate enough to spend time with her over here. And she had a great presence on pool deck. And I believe a lot of the men were actually scared of her. So, and it's not, and that's not the image that we want to portray, but it's the image that we want to portray is that we are strong and that we belong. Linda Keefer, you know, I was speaking with Janet and she was telling me about Linda, and, you know, she earned that right to be on the Olympic team this year with Kylie Massey. Is it Mass or Massey? Mass. She earned that right. You know, she's done the hard yards. She was the one that developed Kylie all the way along. And Kylie went on to Ben Titley, and Ben did a lot of the what I call the polishing work. And but I also applaud Ben Titley for standing up and pushing for Linda to be on the Olympic team. So to have a male coach to really push for Linda to be on that team, we are moving in the right direction. So Ben, if you do see this at any stage, you know, I applaud you and congratulations. It's awesome that you, the coach that you are, and I've seen the photo with all the medals hanging off your arms, the coach that you are and world-renowned coach, for you to stand up for Linda is a fantastic thing. Also, is it Dean Bowles? Dean's doing an amazing job as well, from what from you know, speaking with Janet as well, and the support of the female coach as well. We need that kind of thing. We're not just the females that stay at home if we are married to look after the kids. And you know, and that brings up another platform in regards to the single females compared to the married females. It's not a competition. We're there to support each other, you know. And I believe we all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses, and it's something that we should really encourage each other and play together and support each other. I think sometimes, and I will say this, and I know this is something that I have been a part of in the past. I do believe sometimes we do play the victim, and we sit back and we can say, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened. But that's life. We have to move on, and we have to be strong, and we have to, and dust ourselves off and get up and go again. So once we actually recognize that if we are playing the victim and we move forward, that in itself is another strength that we've gained, and I know I have played the victim in the past, and it's something that I think I've given myself a bit of an uppercut about, and my husband's given me a bit of an uppercut, which is, in Australia, that's a bit of a punch in the face or a smack between the eyes. And you like I said, you have that epiphany, and you wake up and you go, yep, I get it, and I'm going to prove what I'm actually about. As I said, I've been extremely fortunate to have great support through my career, starting from 2017 with Jamie Salter and also Glenn Berrigan. I believe they've really pushed for me to be part of the growing team. Still in the junior pathway at the moment, but I do plan on moving to the senior pathway. And, I have to thank Sean Ills, because if Sean hadn't have pulled off the 2017 team, would I have had the same opportunities I have today? I don't know, but I do. And I'm thankful for Sean. I think I'll always be thankful to Sean. This year also, even though Junior World Championships weren't going ahead, Australia decided to select a team of juniors and a selected team of World Uni students as well, and we were going to have a duel in the pool. And I was selected as the head coach of that junior team, which again was a bit of a shock, but it was something that I grabbed with both hands, and I ran with it. And I sort of went, I'm going to do the best job I can do. And we went through about 8 to 10 different plans, because there were constant changes due to COVID. It didn't go ahead, but I certainly learnt a hell of a lot of what goes on behind the scenes, and planning to get coaches, communicating, and working together. And which leads me into my next question is, what makes a great coach? And it's something that I've spoken to my past coaches, which is Bill Sweetener, Michael Bowl, Dick Kane, Brian Sutton. As I said, Brant Best is a mentor coach in Queensland. He coached James Magnuson. We have Barry Prime, who's also an Olympic coach. And so key points to what makes a great coach is the ability to communicate. And I think as females, we do that extremely well. The ability to listen, again, as females, I think we do that extremely well. And I think we do it, we do it not just by listening, we do it by sight, and we watch, and we see how the athlete presents themselves as well. The ability to have the knowledge and the desire to obtain more knowledge. And Michael Bowles said this, to have the knowledge of how to get someone from 53 to 52, and then from 52 to 51, and so on. And if you don't know that, find it, because there's so much information out there. The ability to unite a team, to create a great culture. I know for me, in every team that I've been in, it's something that I've really encouraged, and I've encouraged my team to take ownership and to develop our culture. The ability to coach the person, train the athlete, and that's a really big thing for me. It's not just about how do we get the best out of the athlete; it's about how to develop the person and develop life lessons, and then train the athlete to be the best athlete they can be. The ability to earn the trust and respect of the athlete and the team. And you can't just demand the respect of something that you have to give and you have to earn. And again, I do believe we do that really well. From what I saw from Janet, and, I know she said that she was watching me, but I was also watching her, which is quite funny. Janet was very strong. She was standing, she had a great presence. And, she most probably had more strength than I did, because she came up to me, and it was through that this today is possible. So, Janet, thank you for making that walk along that 50-metre pool to come down and say hello. And then I was the one with the long arms that did the selfie with the phone that we do these days, and we've got that photo. So that's something that I'll be forever grateful for. I think we go back to what I actually started at the start when I said about when I was a flight attendant, and I actually had to give up my role as a flight attendant because we didn't have any help. If we wound about the clock now, and I think my husband would have very quickly given up his role for me to continue my role as a flight attendant, with circumstances that have come along. But and I think that's a society thing as well. I know it's definitely a society thing in Australia that the female stays at home and looks after the family, and the male goes out and is the breadwinner. But we can make that a change. And as I said, my husband's extremely supportive. I put a post up on Instagram. I'm a little bit, with technology. I'm not great with technology, but I put a post up this morning, yesterday and this morning, that, my husband is my encourager, my support, my rock, my punching bag, because we know we go home and we need to, I suppose, unleash our frustration and our anger and whatever it may be, because we don't want to show that to the kids, and we don't want to show our I suppose what we can call our weakness either to our male counterparts. So my husband is my punching bag, the poor bugger, but he is, and he's never pressured me to stay at home within my coaching role. He's been the one that's encouraged me to keep moving. So my journey's not finished. My journey keeps going, and I'm sure I'll stumble. I'm sure we all stumble, but we're there to pick each other up, and I would open the door to anyone on this particular Zoom meeting to reach out. I'm sure you have information, I have information, and I think the world of swimming can only get better when we continue to share information. So, Janet, I'll leave it up to you if anyone has any questions. And so away we go.
All right, Janelle, wonderful. You actually played into some of the questions that I had. I know that we're going to take one question from Mr. Bill O'Toole, who is the Toronto Swim Club coach, in just a minute, but I just wanted to start. I took this from a quote, actually, Janelle, from you. Coaching is hard. Coaching is a hard world. It is a very male-dominated field, and I think it is also an occupation where society pigeonholes people. It is hard, and I'm not going to lie, but if you are true to your convictions and you have your philosophies and produce results, that speaks 1,000 words. So when I read that, and it was in an article that was celebrating the opportunity for you to be part of what we would refer to as our select coaching group. In Australia, I think the equivalent is the Australian Institute. I'm not quite sure the term. But my question for you is that with that being said, how do we then reimagine, if it's hard work, how do we continue to reimagine when we look at the results from the Olympics or the Paralympics, and we're talking percentages of 3 to 7% of those coaching positions still only being female? I know in 2000, when I was a token female selection to go to the Paralympics. How do we move forward? How do we reimagine us becoming not just secondary options, but the primary option when it comes to coaching and coaching selection and coaching opportunities.
I think, you know, as I spoke about earlier, you know, my wish is to be the co-coach for Michael Bowl. I may not be a head coach yet, and I tend to use that yet quite a bit, because if we don't use that, we just continue in the same snowball. It just keeps on rolling along, and we don't break out. So, you know, I'm going to have to do my time. I'm going to have to do my apprenticeship with Michael Bowl as a high performance co-coach. He likes to call it his co-coach, not an assistant, which I think is actually quite admirable on his part. So yeah, and then for me then to really start to forge myself as a high performance coach in my own right. Will it happen next year? Maybe not. Will it happen in 3 years' time? It's something that I'm pushing for. Will it happen in 10 years' time? Hopefully people like yourself, Vicki, Linda, Cathy, it may not happen in our lifetime, but if we can do the best we can do for the future of female swimmers in, you know, next Olympics or 2028, 2032, then we can leave a legacy. And it's not necessarily just about us. It's a legacy that we try to reimagine that role as the female on the coaching panel, earning their spot within their own ability.
No, that's so true. I mean, it's, I think the other part of that question that I have, and you touched on it, is the idea of collaboration or co-coaching. And I guess the question that I have for you, Janelle, you know, this is a great example of how opportunities can come to coaches, not just female coaches, but to work with elite coaches at a high performance and to be able to develop the skills that you're talking about. And what are your ideas, or maybe two ideas, on how coaches, male and female, can co-create those roles or co-create those opportunities, not just from a club perspective, but also from a national perspective or beyond?
I think, you know, this is something. When I actually sent the email to Swimming Australia, it was really, really hard for me to put down my wishes, because I've never really spoken out about what I really wanted. It was something, and women undersell themselves. It's proven. Women undersell themselves by about 40%. You know, we can look at a job description and we may not have 2 out of the 5 qualities that are needed, and we go, oh, I can't do that because I don't have those qualities. Whereas a man will look and go, I have 2 of those qualities. I can do this. Yeah, and that's, you know, is that the fault of the male or is that the fault of the female? I don't think it's a fault. It's just we now need to stand up and go, no, I can do this. So for me to send that email to Swimming Australia, to Tamara Shepherd and Rowan Taylor, and to voice my wish to be the co-coach for Michael Bowl at the high performance center, it was extremely hard. Like, it was hard to write it out, and I was fortunate enough to have a mentor through the AIS female leadership program, which was Michelle Mitchell. And we were going backwards and forwards with the email, and she said, now you need to press send. And I think that pressing that button of send was one of the hardest things to do, because I was putting myself out there. I was being vulnerable, which is something that I believe we need to do. We need to encourage that vulnerability. We need to show that if we have a look, there's great partnerships out there that is male and female. Bill Sweetenham had Judy Hudson. Dean Boxall has Maxine Sear. Michael Bowl has myself now. You know, there's some awesome, Ben Titley has Linda. There's some awesome co-coaching female-male roles. In the States, they have to, and it's a written rule that they have to employ a certain amount of female coaches, which I think it's fantastic because it gives them opportunities. And I think we need opportunities to show how good we actually are.
So just hearing what you're saying, I think a lot of the time what happens, unless an organization or a club or even the national body, if they don't create those opportunities for not just women, but for people who need to develop and grow, those people don't develop and grow. And so if I
You never
stay...
get to shine. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was interesting. I was listening to something from Mel Marshall, and I believe it was Mel that said it, or maybe it was Terry Mckeever that said it, is that you hit on it. When a woman does something often in the coaching world, we wait till we have perfection. We wait till the moment that we can prove to whoever it happens to be that we are accomplished, that we can do this. Whereas often male coaches will not need to prove that. And boards, clubs often will take a risk on a male coach thinking that we're going to hire this person on their potential as opposed to a female coach where she needs to prove that she is worthy. Do you have any comment on that? Is that still very... Yeah.
I think, I know when I went to Junior Worlds in 2019, I was rooming with our team manager, who was Lynn Fowley. And Lynn is married to John Fowley, Canadian as well. So there's quite a connection through Canada and Australia, and Janet and myself, and which I love. And the male coaches would get together, yet they wouldn't invite me. And and again, I had to stand tall, and it was just like, well, no, I'm there for a job. I'm there to do the best I can do, and I'm there for the athletes. I'm not there to go out and slap each other on the back. And I think and this is not, and I'm not trying to be derogatory in any way, but I think the males support each other, and then they go and they will then put someone's name forward because it's a mate. So the names of a male coach would be put forward first because of that friendship and that mateship and what we in Australia call the boys' club. Whereas that female name doesn't come to the forefront easily. There's some great coaches that Steve Miller, he coaches Lizzie Deckers. And Steve and I get it on extremely well. And he was on 2019. He said, Janelle, I wish I had stayed with you more often. He said, because I was watching you and I was learning more from you, but I thought I had to be part of what the boys were doing. So that in itself sort of, I think, made me proud that I was doing the right thing for my athletes and my athletes at Junior Worlds. I think it's the mateship that they put their mates' names forward a lot easier than they put a female's name forward.
Thank you for that insight. And with that, I think it's a great moment to sort of segue into Bill, if Bill is ready to maybe ask a question for you. But I'm going to just put a toot out to Bill because this year he had to hire a new assistant position, a new role at his club. And he actually contacted me to talk about, certain individuals, but putting females first and not automatically eliminating a female off the list because they didn't really know a lot about them, but going out of his way to make sure that he had the right information, the right coach with the right skills and the right toolkit to be in the program that he needs. Bill, are you able to unmute and ask your question? Bill?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
We can, Bill. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Janelle, I was like, what I've noticed is basically, as a coach, any coach, male or female, when you're coming up through the ranks and you're developing your skills and trying to, move forward, the way I grew up was that it was all based on results. It was based on what you could bring to the table, et cetera, et cetera. And what I did notice was that when I was coming up that female coaches as opposed to male were looked upon more as, coaching the younger kids and being really good and more of like almost like oh, she would be great with, the younger kids or something like that, right? And I always thought that was stupid. I always looked at it like you can either coach or you can't coach. Doesn't matter if you're male or female. And to me, as I've been coaching for quite a while now, I've looked at a lot of great coaches, male and female. I've seen a lot of poor coaches, male and female. And I was just wondering, what was your take on, because I've seen some amazing results. Like you mentioned some great female coaches, being Linda Keefer, yourself, personally, Janet, I think has done a great job. There's a lot of like really, really great female coaches that I've seen. You've mentioned a number of them. But I think for a developing coach, a younger coach, what are we missing? Like, what do you see as like a key element? And because we talk a lot about it, but I'm just wondering, what do you see as a key element that we can do to promote those females in coaching to aspire to that higher level? Like, what can they do? Because I still find that they, they feel a little bit, I don't know if the word intimidated is the right word, but that it's almost like, they're almost afraid to bring forward their skill set and their value to the whole thing. Is there something that, we as an organization can do to support helping that bridge that gap from just being, well, I'm coaching here, to really being assertive in terms of developing that, because there's so much talent out there. I mean, I just hired a young lady named Casey Leslie right now as in the number 2 position at my club. And she's phenomenal. Like, I couldn't be happier. And I'd be happy to say why I hired her, but I just wanted to get your take on, are there a couple key elements that we're missing that we could add into the whole thing as a country to be better with that,
Bill, I applaud you for what you've done and hiring the Casey into the role that you have, and also having the voice to speak out and saying, you don't care whether it's female or male. It's whoever's best for the role, and so I applaud you for that. Intimidation, I think, is the correct word. I don't think it's the wrong word, but because I think I touched on it, that as a female, we're seen as the nurturing and the caring and the compassionate, and we're pigeonholed into learn to swim. We're pigeonholed into the junior because of that caring and compassion. Yet we do a lot of the developing. We do a lot of the junior developing right through, and then we're told that the athlete needs to move on to a high performance program. And when we don't have that opportunity, I'm not going to say the ability, because I believe we have the ability, but we don't have that opportunity to finish the polished end subject. It's like a diamond. The diamond's really rough and ready, and over time it sort of gets molded, and you find out the clarity and the expense of this beautiful diamond, and you get everything. You do all the chipping away, you do the remolding, and then all of a sudden it goes to the high performance coach to polish it. And I don't believe the females at this stage get to do that finished polishing opportunities. Ben Titley with Linda, that's a fantastic opportunity for Linda to work with Ben at the High Performance Centre. But we are definitely pigeonholed into the learn to swim and the junior coaching. It's just, I think once we open the gate and open the opportunities to females, I think we'll see a very big turn, because even Bruno Fractus, he had his wife coaching him, another female. He had Brett Hawke in the background, but it was his wife that took him to the Olympics, to a bronze medal after trying, I think, 3 times or 4 times for a medal. So it was his wife that was there with him. And I know over the Australian commentary for the Olympics, there was definitely a voice that was being put out there. Where are our female coaches? Why don't we have female coaches at the Olympics? So if the media are looking at it, it's starting to be noticed. So for you, Bill, to hire Casey. You can see the attributes that she has. And I actually said this the other day, that with my program and my squad that I have, I feel like the mother duck with all her little ducklings, because I believe that I have that care for them as a person before an athlete. And I'm always saying, you know, how's school going? How's the exams going? You know, how's home? You know, now if I see that they're down a bit, it's something that I will very quickly pick up on. And I said, and I do believe females are very, very good at that.
Yeah, I find that. Sorry?
Hopefully that's answered the question.
Yeah, I've always worked with female coaches, and it was funny. I was speaking to Cathy the other day, and she said, what's your ratio of female to male on the staff? And I said, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. And then we have 12 people on staff, and there's 2 guys, me being one of them. So I have 10 females on staff. But I find
that's fantastic.
You know, yeah, it's great. I mean, I never thought about it. I just looked for the best coach, you know, who was the right fit, you know, who had the best, you know, who could bring the best coaching to the table. And I'm proud to say that the ladies I have on staff are fantastic coaches, and I learn from them all the time, and they help me. And I think they add a real strength to the program in terms of things that I might not see, or, you know, just, and not even just being a female, but just they're very, very good at what they do. And so I never thought about it. I know there's always been things to discuss and improve in this area. And I think, to be blunt, I mean, over the years, it's gotten a lot better, but it wasn't so good way back in the day. I remember it was basically the old boys club, you know. We had a coach way back named Marion Sweetnam, who her daughter was Lindsay Sweetnam, who was a world-ranked IM swimmer, breaststroker, fantastic athlete, Olympian, the whole 9 yards. And she was an amazing coach. I mean, brilliant. And she very rarely ever got to go on a national team. And I couldn't figure out why. I was like, why wouldn't you bring her? You know, like, she's great. Like,
yeah.
So
it's
my
tough,
2 cents.
I'll give you 2 examples. When I was sort of, before I made it onto the 2017 team, I had a father approach me in regards to his son moving up squads. And I said, look, he's not ready yet. You know, he hasn't made the different standards. And he said, well, you haven't given him an opportunity. So he became quite aggressive with me. So I gave him an opportunity, and he still didn't rise for the occasion. And he became quite aggressive. I spoke about the technique and the continuation of the technique. And he said, how long does this technique, am I allowed to swear on this? Am I getting no. Okay, how long does this technique stuff work go for? And I said, technique goes forever. And he said, you're just a stupid female. He didn't say female. He started with a B, but he said, you're just a stupid female. He said, I'm not going to stop at that. So and, you know, I do believe parents will treat a female differently than they will treat a male. They won't speak out to a male like they will a female. Yet, you know, the other day I was speaking with Michael Bowl, and we were speaking about one of the athletes, and we were talking about just different things going along. And I said to him, does she know that you really want her to stay? Does she know that you really care about her? And he said, yeah, I think so. And I said, well, have you told her? And he said, you ask her. So I called her aside and I said, look, you know, with everything that, and we call him Bowley, it's not just Michael. I said, with everything that Bowley's been trying to do for you, do you see that he's trying to encourage you and really wants you to stay? Or do you see that he's picking on you? And she said, no, I see that, you know, he's really trying to encourage me. And so I spoke to Bowley and I said, you know, sometimes we deliver things and what the athlete will hear is completely different than the intent that we want to deliver. And you know, for me, I really make a point of saying, now this is my intent. What have you heard? So it's not just, yeah, but I told you that. And it's something that I've learned from another female. It's not within swimming. She was a gymnast, and she brought it to my attention. So again, that's where I sort of talk about keep on learning from each other, and the more we speak to each other, males and females, I think the better coaching the world will have. So that's two different incidences for me, when I was starting out as a coach, and now also working alongside bowling.
I think you touch on a really great point about there's a real power when you have that male female teamwork together. There's a real power with that, and I've watched it firsthand with Byron McDonald and Linda Keefer after I think 30 odd years. There's a real power there that I really admire. And I think, to be honest, I've always worked with females. My last coach that I worked with before Casey was a male. But when I was interviewing, I think a little part of me was in my head was going, that there's a real power there, and when I think I did about 20 interviews, to be honest, and Casey was by far the best candidate for it. And after it was all said and done, I thought, wow, now this can be added as well. That wonderful collaboration, that wonderful unity of having a male and female work together to try and strengthen the team. And it's a real powerful thing, in the right way.
Yeah.
Bill, what a great point, and what a great segue to sort of move on just a little bit. But I think that you're right. It's what are we going to do as we reimagine how we move forward after such a tumultuous time, difficult time, is what you're doing and what I see is happening in Australia for Janelle is the opportunity is being looked at very differently. How do we move forward? Not only to get better, not only to improve performance, but to build those relationships that will enhance those opportunities for performance and for success. And I do a shout out to you, Bill, thank you for speaking up. And before we move to some panel questions, Dean Bowles was going to chime in for a few minutes. Dean, are you ready?
I think I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Fantastic. Janelle, thank you very much for getting up early and being part of our conference. And Janet, what a gem you've captured here. And we had our chat earlier, Janelle, and very pleased. And even listening to you today, it was really, I'll call it soothing to where we want to be. You mentioned some people today, and Bill mentioned a person, but you could talk about Casey, and you talk about Marion Sweetenham, you talk about Vicki, you talk about Cathy, you talk about Janet. Those are all people who are part of a panel, or not a panel, but a panel, advisory panel, I guess, to me, but really it was a working panel within it. And I think part of the thing, administration organizations, we forget some very important things, and we get a great idea and then we don't run with it. And so then we pick it up and things like that. And that's what it was. But it's the individuals that make it run, and coaches like Janet and taking on leadership roles, definitely that. I think one of the things that we can't lose sight of is that organizations, when I say organizations, I'll speak about clubs. Clubs, regardless whether when they're hiring a coach, rarely do they ever contact clubs in Ontario. Rarely do they ever contact the governing body to get a sense of what do you think, or what's out there, who's out there, what do you think of this, the direction we're going in. They never do that. I get more calls from our other provinces inquiring about coaches. I get calls from certain international places asking about certain people that I'm aware of. But we have to really educate our administrations, our club administrations, and that's part of what we've been trying to do. It's a challenge. And so I really do think that the coaches, I'm hoping the coaches that are on this session, but the ones who should be on this session will actually catch on. And that's both male and female coaches who are not listening live, but hopefully will come back and listen to this because it's so valuable, what you're messaging. And part of it is hopefully these same coaches will work towards educating their club leaders, their administrators, their presidents on the processes that are available to them, resources, because that's one of the things. So I had to do that commercial break. You did put my name on, you threw my name out there, and I thought, well, this is my moment, but thank you very much. Now to get on, I probably threw your timeline off, Janet. Sorry about that. It's time to get on with your panel, because I'm going to tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed having my panel discussions with Cathy and Vicki and individual conversations. But I'm going to tell you, when you have the strength of good coaches, then I'll say of great women, then we have a pretty powerful tool there. So I leave that to you, and thanks very much, Janelle.
Thank you. I also want to do a shout out to Byron McDonald. I know I've spoken about Linda going to Ben, and I think that was since COVID. But I was very aware that they had a very good connection. And actually, Michael, when I was telling Michael about being on this panel today, he said it was Byron that coached Kylie Mass. And I said, actually, no, it was Linda. And he said, oh, I think it was. And I said, well, I know they were together, but I said Linda did a lot of the hard yards. And that's when he said he wasn't aware of that. So, so that in itself, and I said, and sometimes as females, we are sometimes fearful to speak up in fear of retribution. And that's where we have to break down those walls. We shouldn't be able to, there shouldn't be fear. We should be able to speak up, say it without rudeness or poor intent. We just need to speak up for what we believe in without that fear.
That's 100% true. And I think that part of our issue as a coaching group, we still do feel retribution if we push beyond those lines or push beyond the norm. I love the description. Somebody said it to me once, Iron Maiden versus damsel in distress, right? Yeah. So trying to find that balance of where we fit in, a strong voice is very, very important. What I'd like to do now is I would like to invite Cathy and Vicki as part of our panel to also participate in some discussion with Janelle. I've prepared a couple of questions, but feel free to go off topic a little bit if necessary. But I really want to get sort of to the crux of women in coaching. And there are challenges, definitely. And sometimes we are our best advocate and other times we are not. I believe, as Janelle believes, that coaching is coaching. And we all come to the table with a set of skills. We carry that skill set with us. We learn to bridge and build that skill set with those around us, whether it's through a mentorship, whether it's through a partnership, or whether it's as a student or a learner. And three very strong women here to be able to maybe comment on this is, what do you think from a female perspective, not necessarily a coaching perspective in particular to all coaches, but what are three non-negotiable things that you buy into when as a coach? What are the things that they're non-negotiable for you? Let's start with Vicki.
I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
Sure.
Non-negotiable in regard to.
So I'll start. My three non-negotiable things are effort, fun, and reality. Those are things that are just non-negotiable for me. If we're not having fun and I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, then I don't do what I do. There has to be that. So you do not necessarily have to put them into categories, but what are three non-negotiables for you, Janelle? Maybe I'll start and then Vicki can get a better idea. I see you're thinking. Thinking.
I think for me, there is the definitely knowledge, empathy, and inclusion. I think they're my three.
Your three? Vicki, got an idea now?
Yes, I understand completely what you're asking. Fun has always been important, and I think it's not something we address enough. And it doesn't mean we have to be goofing off, but we can. When I'm talking to my athlete and I want them to focus on a specific thing, I don't send them off and say, I want you to work with that. I say, I want you to play with that. And I think that just that mindset of, you're here and you're enjoying this. So I think fun is really important, with that understanding that we have to be having fun. They have to be able to be supportive and encouraging, but to play with things instead of work with them. I think ownership. I think that we take ownership, but I think also we have to give that ownership to our athletes. They have to understand that they're not in the pool for me. And so I'm really like saying, I'm not able to be at a practice on Saturday, but there's pool time there. I would really encourage you to go and work on something that we've talked about in the past that you need some work on, and to give them that ownership that they can go and try it out and come back and say, this is what I worked on. What does it look like now? So they're coming back to me saying, I did that. What do you think? And I think that starts a conversation. And I think conversations are important. So I'm going to go way over the 3 non-negotiables. You know that, right? But I think having a conversation with your athletes and keeping that communication opening and letting them have a say in what they're doing as well, which is all part of ownership. And I think, especially as a female coach, we have a skill of intuitiveness. And when, Janelle, when you were talking about the traits of a great coach, I think intuitiveness fits in there very, very strongly. We as females have had to see things differently, learn things differently, be more aware of our surroundings. As young people, as somebody that goes out at night, we have to address where we are differently than a man might. And I think we've got these spidey senses that we use as coaches as well. And I think it's a really important thing to be able to do, is have that intuitiveness, use that intuitiveness, watch, learn, protect our athletes, because I think that part of that is that safe sport environment. And we have that spidey sense. I know everybody has it on some level, but I think we've really built that spidey sense.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Thank you, Vicki. All right, Cathy, how about you? What are your 3 non-negotiables?
I was going, okay, a lot of you hit on so many of the points. So I thought, let me go into my extended list of non-negotiables so that I can provide something a little different. Commitment is massive for me on my end, on my athletes' end, and on my organization's end. So it's a full commitment on what you're doing, whether it's time management, how you're doing it. If you are involved in the organization, be involved in the organization and don't be wishy-washy about it. So commitment's huge for me. Skill set is a massive one for me. I'm so picky on skill set and developing the kids to be the best that they can be. Not everybody will get it, but there's still something everybody can get and achieve in order to perform. And then the last one that I had was life lifting. And I say that because it's not always about the pool and swimming. And if your athlete is struggling outside of the pool, how are you going to lift them to lessen the stress load from outside the pool so that when they're in the pool, they achieve? They want the pool as their outlet to come and just let it go and be there. And we all know that swimming will lift you in life further down the road by the contacts you make, by the business networking you can do, and you can come back to it. And it's just one of those things that's completely life lifting for me.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Sorry.
Lovely. Lifting.
Cathy, I loved how you said allowing the athletes to be the best they can be. It's something that I say quite a bit, and and it's not just the athlete; it's the person.
Yeah, fabulous. You're making me feel warm and fuzzy here. This is good. So I'm going to ask you a little harder question this time. If in this beautiful world that we live in right now, in this moment, as we move ahead in the following year, the years to come, moving into Paris, what is one thing? You can give me 2 things because I know you probably will. But one thing that boards, Swim Ontario, Swimming Canada, Sport in Australia can do to ensure that positions for females are going to be supported, developed, and created. Is that a hard question?
I'll go. I'm happy to go. I think they just need to open their eyes and their ears. I think that's really important, to open their eyes and their ears, because when you open your eyes, you can actually see, and when you open your ears, you can actually hear. So if you don't see what's out there, and you don't see the opportunities that, or not even the opportunities, if you don't see the qualities within females, then you have your eyes closed. And if you're not hearing what's going on, then you're not opening the ears.
Great. Cathy?
I look at it from, in order to make it improved and enhanced, I know that I'll take it from a club perspective, because I know the direction we all want to go with the national body and the provincial body, and there's work to be done with that. But if we don't actually work within our club organizations to get them on board as well, we will fail through there, because I know that sometimes a smaller club, there's an opportunity presented for a head coach or a senior coach to go and be mentored, or to go and be on a tour team of some kind. And the club says, wait a minute, your commitment is to us, not the greater good. Therefore, we don't want you to go. So clubs need to understand that there's an evolvement and an evolution to women in coaching and males in coaching, because there are a lot of males who are in the same position with a small organization, and they don't want to release them to have a junior coach step in and cover practices for a senior program while the lead coach goes and gets additional mentorship and education. What a wonderful opportunity it is for both, on both ends. The junior coach gets the experience to work with senior athletes. The senior coach gets to work with high performance athletes. It's a win-win situation, and clubs need to have that messaging.
Wonderful, Cathy. Vicki?
I think we need to look at the numbers that we have now in coaching at the international level, and we look at the Olympic and the Paralympics and how many coaches we said who were female, and about a fifth of them were. So the female coaches aren't getting the experience, therefore they can't be selected. I mean, you're not going to go to say, well, we haven't taken any female coaches anywhere, so what are we going to do for the Olympics? Let's take a female coach. That's not fair to the athletes, and it's not fair to the coach. We need to take opportunities right off the bat. When athletes are going to camps and things like that, we need to be bringing female coaches then. And we've talked about tokenism, and I have a slightly different perception of tokenism than other people might. And that is that it might be perceived that we have been chosen because we're female, but it is giving us the opportunity to prove what we're capable of doing, and that we do have a different perspective, and that we have the abilities, and maybe in a different way, but we have the abilities to build our athletes into a really positive environment and opportunity. So I think that we need to find ways to start right now, today, in any camp, any opportunity, start bringing the female coaches so that they have an opportunity to prove who they are. So when it comes to saying, okay, we're selecting our Paralympic or Olympic team, they know these coaches, and they've seen what they're capable of doing. And the female coaches have had an opportunity to be confident in those roles.
Fantastic, Vicki. I'm just going to throw a quick comment out. One of our participants, Brian, I hope it's okay if I call you by name, but one of the other issues is pay equity as well. And until clubs and boards and organizations acknowledge that I'm worth this amount just as equally as this amount, and I will give myself as a great example. I'm working in a part-time volunteer position and a part-time paid position because that's what I need to do to make it work for my club. And that's only because I have a full-time job that pays the bills. But there is still discrepancy in pay equity for women in coaching. And perhaps that's another step forward that we could look at, or especially clubs and leadership look at. And I think Dean also mentioned that in the chat as well. So great ideas. I'm just going to keep rolling. These are good. So my next question is, what advice would you give to a young female coach just starting out? You're going to go first this time, Cathy.
Okay, so I also do, I teach Swimming 101. I'm a learning facilitator for Swimming 101. So I see all of those grassroots coaches coming in and learning. And my message to them at the end of the course is always, do not let your education stop here. This is a wonderful time in society and in swimming to really push yourself forward and learn more and more and more. And do not be afraid to ask coaches. And Laura and I, when we're together, we always say, see us on the deck, come talk to us. Ask us questions. Don't be afraid. We've established that safe area for them to come and talk. Network amongst all the coaches on the deck. And, you know, when I first started, that was my big fearful moment of, I'm going to look like an idiot, like I don't know what I'm doing. How can I go ask that coach how to do this? And they're going to look at me and say, what are you doing on this deck? And until I got rid of that fear, because we all have to learn, and the best way to learn is on the deck. So go visit a coach, learn from your coaches within your program, and talk to coaches on the pool deck.
Great advice. Vicki.
So when I first started coaching, I was given some really important advice. And the first piece of advice was, never bend down to the level of a child. Stand up tall and make them look up at you, because that's how you get respect. And a second coach told me that I would never get respect as a female coach unless I had the swimmers refer to me as Ms. Keith. And there were swimmers on the team that were younger than me, but they were all expected to refer to me as Ms. Keith. And I was really lucky to have this kind of mentor at the beginning of my coaching career, because it taught me to believe in myself and do what I thought was right. And it's been a bumpy journey, as I always tried to come back to that. But I think my advice is trust yourself and be who you are. Don't try and become somebody else. Continue to learn, continue to experience, but trust yourself and be yourself.
Those are all great words. And I wish we could all make sure that those things are followed. Janelle, you get to say the last word on this question.
I agree, with Cathy and Vicky. And Vicky, I actually always make sure that I go down and speak to each athlete eye to eye. So if they're really, really young, I go right down to their level. And I always talk about we. I say, okay, how are we going to move forward? How are we going to improve? Because I believe it's a team. It's not just you, and you can't keep on pointing fingers. I do believe we have to use the word we. I was actually on pool deck not so long ago, and there was another male coach there, and I knew he was fairly new to coaching, and I was just watching, and there was this part of me that really wanted to go up and try to help him with his coaching. But it was also part of me that was like, I don't want him to think that I think he doesn't know anything. So I was like, I'm just going to jump into it here. And I said to him, look, I've just been watching, and you haven't been doing any stroke rates. Do you know how to do stroke rates? And he said, no. He said, no one's ever shown me. No one's ever told me. No one's ever spoken to me. And I said, would you like to know? And so we stood for 15, 30 minutes, just taking stroke rates of all different athletes. And he got the hang of it. So for me, it's, my advice would be, listen to advice, take in what really works for you, because if you take in all the advice, you'll just get all completely confused, and you won't know which end is up and down. Be true to yourself, stand tall, and realize that you're there for the athlete, not for the self-betterment.
Great advice. I wish I had something like that for when I was much younger and first starting into my coaching career at the age of 15 or 16 on pool deck for the first time. I'm going to ask one more question to the panel, and then I'm going to allow for any questions from the floor. If you have a question, please place your question into the chat. if we don't get tons of questions, I will actually ask you to ask your own question if you'd like to do that. So this is kind of I don't know, a difficult question sometimes. And the reason that I'm asking it is that I feel that women are really, really good at identifying their weaknesses and not necessarily great at defining their strengths. And I think that it's a really important task that we each need to take on as coaches, is that reflective piece of our practice. So in my words, I use the words grow and I use the words glow. And not everybody loves those words, but I love those words. And so perhaps from the three of you, to help us set that role model for us as coaches, male and female, could you quickly, Cathy, Vicky, and Janelle, identify one of your glows and identify one of your grows? And Janelle, we'll start with you.
Okay, I think one of my glows is I'm very empathetic with my athletes. I've always said to my athletes that I will always empathize with you because I understand how hard it is. I know how hard it is, but I'll never sympathize, because as soon as I sympathize, I allow you to take the easy way out. And that's not, excuse me, that's not what we're trying to encourage in an athlete. And with that empathy allows for the athlete not to rise to the occasion, but to fall to their training. So when you fall to your training, you know you've done it, you've pushed through the hard yards, you've done the skill set and everything. And when you get up for competition, you know that what you've done in training, that you're going to be able to step up with confidence. One of my grows maybe is not to be so emotional. I can get quite teary at times, and some people say it's a good thing. Some people say it's not such a good thing, but it's, try to not take things so personally at times.
Great. Cathy, glow and grow.
Okay, so glow, I've always been given the title of the person who can save a swimmer from quitting. So it's strange, but it's right in that age of, that 13 to 15-year-old where they're going to leave. And I seem to have a knack to be able to save them from quitting and hating the sport. And when I took on the head coach role at Wilfrid Laurier University, I had two athletes, one who was a past athlete, but when they went off to university, they had injury. They ended up leaving the sport, hating the sport, never wanted to get back into a swimming pool. I found out he was coming in and doing a second degree at my university. And I thought, he never completed his competition, his eligibility. So I recruited him for his last year of university into the team. And we just had a blast. And he was like, wow, thank you so much for bringing back the joy of the sport again. And he wants to, still be active in the pool, even for himself, for fitness. And then the other university student he did the same thing. He gave me the thanks of, you really made me enjoy swimming again. I was just kind of dreading my last couple of years of university. You've actually opened my eyes to maybe being able to do something. And that was my para athlete then that went on to Para Pan Ams down in, why am I blanking on, in Peru, in Lima. And he won gold, silver, and bronze down there. And now he's preparing himself to go to the para training center in Montreal because he wants to continue his pathway to success, right? So that's my glow. My grow is I've learned to get rid of some of my fear of applying for bigger opportunities, because that's the one thing that I always went, I'm not going to get it, so why bother? I'm not good enough to get that. Look who my competition might be. So anyway, I stepped out of my comfort zone, and yes, Swim Ontario, who's on this call, I applied for the Canada Summer Games head coach job with Swim Ontario and got it. So, step outside and go for it.
Awesome. And you will be a great leader. Vicky, your grow, and then I'll wrap it up after you're done.
My glows, my ability to be inclusive. I've worked at that very hard, and I feel that I'm probably one of the best at that. And my positivity, my ability to see a positive in any situation, especially the really challenging ones. My grows is my ability. I need to learn not to question myself as much. I think we all need to question ourselves, but I question myself way too much and judge myself way too much. And I'm really working hard at not doing that as much. I need to learn to trust myself. And just because I screw up, I need to be able to forgive myself too. And so it's all those kinds of things. It's okay to, apparently it's okay to make a mistake.
All right.
It is okay. It's very okay.
It's totally okay. It's totally okay. And I think, you know what, Vicki, sometimes people need to question themselves more, right? Like we need to question, what are our motives? Why are we doing this? How are we doing this? What can I improve? And not just make the assumption that I'm great, I'm good, I don't need any improvement. So
absolutely. I just do that really, really well. And I need to back off of it on it a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you for being, well, I think the world is vulnerable. Sharing pieces of ourselves is one thing that I think we are very gifted at. And it is a lesson to be learned, and it's an encouraged lesson to be learned for all coaches. And there's so many more things that I would love to ask and to have a conversation about. I think, Cathy, I'm going to ask your question very quickly, if that's okay. Janelle, if you didn't play somebody on the team, well, Lonnie, for example, a few years ago at that juniors, and if that coach had not stepped down, would your pathway have been the same? Would you have been in the position?
No, I don't believe it would have been, because I wouldn't have had the opportunity to shine like I did. So yeah, it's most probably that, and that's why I said, you know, I'm extremely thankful to Sean Eels, even though it wasn't good for him, because it was a family illness that he had to pull off for. It was an opportunity for me to I suppose, break out and show that what I was capable of. And but it was also, I think, what Glenn Berrigan and Jamie Salter saw in me is that I wasn't demanding that Lani came into my group. I was very encouraging for her to be with another group, for her to grow. And Glenn actually said there's not very many coaches, male or female, it doesn't really matter, that would encourage that kind of learning opportunities for the athlete, because they would always be wanting their athlete with them. And I said to him in 2017 that if she ever makes the Olympics, I know I won't be on the team. So that I think that was my reasoning for her to start to learn to be with other coaches.
Wow, what a very profound message there. It's you know, the experiences that we all have and that we all bring to the table. We do bring unique experiences to the table, being female, and our experience have all molded and shaped who we are today and have shaped swimming around us. And there are times, like you just said, if you hadn't had that opportunity, your pathway would be different. So I guess in closing, there are two things I'd like to sort of summarize the things that you've shared, panel, with our lovely participants today, is that hopefully the message is clear, is that, you know, we need to network. We need to have a strong voice. We need to listen. We need to speak up. We need to collaborate. We need to provide mentorship. We need to be taught, and we need to be open-minded and accept the idea of a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed and set mindset. And you have been amazing examples of that today. And I thank you very, very much for your participation in the panel. There are no other questions in the chat. However, I have one last question for you three, and then we will go. If you could, off the top of your head right now, before we sign out, share one recommended book, one recommended podcast that you love, that motivates you, that grounds you, that allows you to be you, what would it be, Janelle?
Can I do two books?
No, just one. Yes, of course you can.
There's one book, it's called Resilience Project by Hugh Van Cuylenberg. Amazing book, absolutely amazing. Actually, I've got three books, sorry. Atomic Habits is by James Clear, another amazing book. And the one that I'm actually reading at the moment is Zero Negativity by Middleton. And to hear his journey and what he's been through to be the positive person he is today, I think we can all grow from that as well. I listen to too many podcasts to pick out my favourites, and I thank everyone that does the podcast, because I do believe it's encouraged more knowledge. But 3 very good books that I've been reading of late.
Wonderful. Well, you hooked me on the imperfects. So
Yes.
I love it. Just love it. Cathy, you, podcast, book?
I was recommended this book, and it's called Rage Becomes Her. I don't know who the author is at the moment. And it's about how rage is an amazing emotion that's a driving force for change. So you could really put yourself into that world, being male or female, I believe, when you're, engulfed in that rage. Don't sit in it, but use it to make change so that it's something more enjoyable.
Thank you, Cathy. And Vicki, I'm sorry. On the spot, we're over time by 2 minutes, but you get to jump in and say yours.
The Brain That Changes Itself, Norman Doidge, talks about neuroplasticity, what's possible, but basically really, really tells you there are no limitations especially when you look at somebody with a physical disability or impairment. There is a way to fix it, work something out so that they can be successful. So neuroplasticity, but the brain that changes itself.
Wow. Okay. Great reading. I now have to go and find a bookstore or order online, but those are great inspirational tools. And I cannot say thank you enough, Janelle. Thank you for getting up early this morning. Thank you for sharing your message. And we wish you absolutely the best success in the pathway that you've chosen, and that opportunities come for you in the future. So thank you very much, Janelle. Thank you, Cathy. We look forward to you building towards 2022 for the Canada Summer Games. And Vicki, your voice in both the para world and the able-bodied world continue to shine, because we listen to what you say. So, and thank you to our participants. I hope you enjoyed our panel session today, and feel free to forward any questions through the Feedloop platform to our presenters. I'm sure that they would be more than happy to answer those questions. Have a great day, and we will see everyone on deck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
for the
everyone. Bye-bye.
opportunity.
Thank you.